We'll be talking about Siri Hustvedt's A Woman Looking at Men, Looking at Women, a collection of essays on art, sex, and the mind. Now, you may know Siri Hustvedt. She is the writer of over six novels, one of them being The Blazing World, which was nominated for the Man Booker Prize. And she's written a work of nonfiction. She's also a psychiatry lecturer, and in this book, she brings to bear her experience as a psychiatrist, as a scientist, and also as a writer of fiction or creative writing. And throughout the essays in this collection, she teases very important questions of philosophy, questions of science and methodology, and also very popular questions familiar with writers. One essay that I love in particular, or loved in particular, and I would like to use as a handle for discussing Siri Hustvedt's method of treating the issues or conversations in all these essays is why one story and not the other. In this essay, she opens with a bold statement that all writers are familiar with, that all stories are possible. However, what we know for sure that for writers, the hard question is not how to tell a story, but what story to tell. So she proceeds and follows this question or this statement with the question: how do we know what shapes the story? Is it our culture? Is it our biology? Is it our gender? And especially on the point of gender, she uses the work of Brian Boyd. Brian Boyd's work of evolutionary psychology on the origin of stories, as a background to discussing the nuances in discussing or having this conversation around what exactly informs our choices when crafting a story. Now, to give some context as regards what Brian Boyd's work on the origin of stories is really about, is I would hazard or I would risk boiling it down to one statement. His work was really about tying or attributing the quality of any artistic work to gender. In other words, he made some what turned out to be some very controversial statements, as to say that when he goes as far as saying that men produced or men were are built to tell better stories than women, or to be more literary geniuses than women, because because of our biological differences. So with that as a background, Siri Hustvedt doesn't stop at just trying to challenge this position, but she goes as far as also bringing into focus some other variables that could make us rethink what exactly makes us choose one story and not the other, or that, variables that shape the way we we write our stories, whether as men or as women. Now she talks about, gives some examples, as examples of testimonies of people who have maybe previously mistaken her to be a man because of the way she wrote. And seeing as she is a woman and a man thinking that she was a man, then would it have mattered that she was a woman writing in the way she does? Or does it matter? And of course, she also challenges some feminist theories, or literary and gender theories, to believe that a woman or a man's duty is to upturn patriarchal syntaxes or language uses. She goes as far as saying that it shouldn't matter whether you are a man or a woman, because the question of what shapes a story, or what makes a writer choose one story and not another, choose one story over another, cannot be easily explained by your gender. But it is a fusion of so many variables, of so many factors, and they go beyond your gender, your biology, your hormonal imbalances. And to buttress this point, she also brings the possibility, or the presence, the prevalence of neotypical factors or variables. So, for instance, would you write any differently as an autistic, someone who is on a spectrum? And this, of course, is outside the scope of Brian Boyd's conversations around biological superiority. So for me, it's she brings what makes her work impressive to me is not just her academic humility, but also in the way that she teases these questions that maybe be boggling so many writers' minds and so many storytellers' minds. Why is this story more important than another, or why am I telling this story and not another? And I appreciate that. The other reason that I appreciate this work is because it was so easy to assess, and the benefit that she brings from her experience, both as a writer, as a psychiatrist, in teasing, in challenging methodologies that have been that had maybe been previously presented as the fact or as gospel, is so refreshing. She also covered so many other issues, philosophical issues of the self-conscious or the consciousness. She talks about depression, despair, and she teases the questions around who told us that despair is a sickness of the soul, or of the mind rather. These kind of questions, of course, go a long way in informing how we approach the issues in society, or how we understand the fabric of the human condition. And this, of course, becomes valuable to writers, especially who are tackling these themes or subjects in their own works of fiction or non-fiction, and also for medical professionals, by building or informing the sensibility with which they treat or study illnesses. So that's my take on the book. I think it is. I definitely gave it a 4-star rating, and it's a book that I would really like to come back to as a case study of non-fiction writing, but also as a reference for the very bold statements, for the very compelling questions that she asked in them, and also as a big fan of multidisciplinary research and study. So that's my take on A Woman Looking at Men Looking at Women, collection of essays on art, sex, and the mind. And I hope you take time to find a copy to read, and let me know what you think afterwards. So like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with a fellow reader who enjoys thinking about why stories matter. Thank you.